Gosh, my intro skills are just getting legit. What's up, everybody? How's everyone doing? Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining in on our discussion this evening. Historians Off the Clock Part 2. And we have one comeback person and a newbie. So we have Dr. Angela Riotto is here and the Steve Phan is with us this evening. I like how you capitalized everything, buddy.
Always.
I love it. I wanted to, as I said 2 weeks ago when we did the first one, I wanted to have something where we just kick back, relax. People who drink can have a drink, and we just talk about shop. We talk about what we do. We talk about whatever comes up. You know, it's just a laid back conversation, like we're sitting in a pub or whatever, and it showcases historians as people, you know, and not just talking heads doing something. So I would definitely want to thank you two for being a part of it. And I know that Angela, last time you had to back out last minute because of a medical emergency with a friend and a colleague. And so I'm glad that you were able to come back and join us.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. I actually kind of threatened him a little bit today. I was like, no emergencies. Like, I have a call. It was like, you need to be healthy at least like one night.
Yeah, please be healthy for a little while, at least for the next hour.
Just for the next hour, just guarantee.
Yeah. Steve, how are things in DC?
Good. I guess the last time we did a video together was Beyond the Battlefield with Ashley Lusky, right?
That's right. Yeah,
that was good. It's been all right. It's been, I think everyone's, kind of experiencing the same thing with the pandemic, right? Right. I've been working essential duties the whole time, so it's been really stressful, to be honest with you. But hanging in there, trying to do the best I can. So I'm happy to meet Angela for the first time. This is great, and then obviously to be back with my buddy John. Always a pleasure. So it's I'm happy to be here. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, and we still haven't gotten around due to COVID to our big history in Little Chinatown thing.
Oh, that's right. We were going to do that.
We were going to do that, and COVID kind of threw us a curveball and all that. So before we came on, I didn't know, Angela, that you were in Kansas City, and I forgot, or I didn't realize it, and we were talking barbecue, and Angela apparently didn't like Steve's choice when he was there. So
I simply brought up the most famous one in freaking Kansas City, okay? And then I got judged.
You got slapped down.
I did. So I brought up Arthur Bryant's, probably one of the most famous barbecue spots in the country, by the way, okay? Right. But I know there are some very, very popular spots in Kansas City, including it's now called just Joe's. I know it used to be called Oklahoma Joe's. Now just
Oklahoma Joe's.
Gates wasn't Gates in DC. I mean, in Kansas City as well.
Gates barbecue. It sounds about right. Yeah.
But
they're I think they have multiple. They're not just a single.
Right. And so she prefers hipster barbecue. So tell us about your hipster barbecue.
Wow. Hipster barbecue. I feel like you're going to offend some people. So I was talking about Q39. Which I think is just a delicious place, but it is described as hip. It's a hip hairy joint that was established on 39th Street, which is this really cool place that you could just walk, and there's used bookstores and coffee shops and bagel shops. One of my favorite vintage stores is down there. It's super fun. And then they opened a secondary location, but it's amazing. They even have vegan options. It's one thing that comes up. I am biased, so I like going places that cater to people that can't eat meat.
There you go.
Choose not to eat meat. So if they can give me really good barbecue sauce and really good food, and it's not just pig, they have my vote.
We've already got discussions in the comment section about barbecues.
They're really excited about it.
We're lighting it up already. But yeah, I've wanted to come to Kansas City for a while because the First World War Museum.
That's right. Yeah.
I've never been, and I've always wanted to come out and see the museum. So it's great to know that there's spots out there to cater to all different types of barbecue flavors. I guess you could say even vegan options, which is fantastic. Because I admit I've had barbecue tofu, and that's fine.
What's that?
Hey, don't be a hater. Have you tried it? No.
The best thing about tofu, Steve, is that it has like no flavor.
That's
right?
true. I know. It's not true.
Just absorbs
It's a vehicle for.
It's not true.
It's a vehicle that you can apply a lot of different flavors, and my mom cooked a lot of tofu growing up, and not saying I don't like tofu, but there's a lot of tofu in Vietnamese cuisine, but barbecue tofu.
It's just like good. They let it absorb everything. Maybe pick up a few spices. But whatever you do not try like tofu meatloaf. I've done that once, and it's like I just pitched it. It went in the trash. It was the worst thing I've ever done with my culinary skills.
Yeah, the best meatloaf I ever ate was in St. Louis. I forget the name of the joint that was there, but they smoked their meatloaf for like a long period of time, and it was just like this crust on the outside, and it was beautiful. And I'm like, wow, that's the best meatloaf I ever ate in my life. And so,
I like
and then doing that was my jam.
What you guys have to do is do like a little Missouri tour. And like you can drive in or fly into St. Louis and then drive across the state to come see me. But you can do St. Louis. You could do Mark Twain's hometown, which is kind of like north central. And then you can come over to Kansas City.
Oh, yeah.
Missouri.
It's flat. It's
actually quite pretty. Like I was really surprised. So I grew up in the mountains of Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. Mountains.
Yeah.
What mountains are in Pennsylvania?
Valley, they're Appalachian mountains.
We have the Appalachians.
Appalachian versus Appalachian. There you go.
Yeah. Appalachian's correct, but yes.
I'm already beefing with Angela. It's already began.
Valley and Ridge. I know. Denver boy over here is like.
They're nice. They're nice. I mean, so this is what the argument I always hear from people from the East is that the Appalachians are older than the Rockies. It's like.
They are.
And
so the best thing about Steve, so I have a geology degree, and the best thing is they are. So the Appalachians were formed in like 3 different orogenies, like mountain building events, and then they slowly eroded over time. The Rockies are only one mountain building orogeny, the Laramie, and it's the most recent. And so it's actually kind of boring. There's nothing under
there. Please, they're majestic. They're mighty. Snow-capped peaks, okay, over 14,000 feet.
I lived in Colorado for a little bit in the mountains.
They personify the West.
It was fun.
All right.
You should respect your elders. That's the way we look at the mountain.
That's fair.
It's like the elderly.
Yeah, we have the elderly mountains here in Pennsylvania.
Veteran, well-respected, wise.
That's why they're nice and well-rounded, literally.
So, John, you're wearing the Super Mario shirt. I'm wearing the Victorian Studio shirt.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like Dave Wilson should pay me for this, right?
It should be. I mean, it's free marketing for him.
I do the things I do for Dave Wilson, but he does follow me on the battlefield to shoot photos. So
you're more likely to get money from him for this than I am from Nintendo to get money.
That's fair. That's fair.
So this is true.
Did you tag them? Stop it.
I didn't tag them. No. She's by the way, she's talking to her dogs, everyone. She's not telling me.
All right. So people who were with us last time on the Tattooed Historian.
Yes. We'll have
they met Duke, but we have Duke again today. Everybody, this is Duke. He is trying to bark at people walking outside. So we are forcing him to cuddle on my lap for the time being.
I like Duke.
Duke is named after John Wayne, the Duke.
We have one Duke, and we call him the Duke of Denver. His name is John Elway. Okay, that's just how we do it, man.
That's how you roll.
All right, we're gonna be cut off from the Denver conversation for the night.
Yeah.
John, are there any funny comments yet?
Well, we are still talking a little bit about tofu in the comments.
Are people very anti-tofu?
Yeah, there's a couple people that are like, "How did we get on tofu?" Which is great. We got people who are talking about different kind of barbecue. Someone said Dan Stiley said Q39 is hipster barbecue.
See,
there you go. You got one there. We got Neil Hurst is coming on.
Oh, Neil, that's right.
The Steve.
See? Yeah, I see that.
Gates and KC.
Mm-hmm.
One that you should get.
See? Dan says Gates is good.
See, we've got a lot of people here that understand. And Cameron wants to be like his hero, Steve Phan.
See?
So
I got
we need to
fans,
talk.
Angela. I got fans.
I know. Well, so I totally just did Instagram for
Yeah,
this.
we gotta
We
hide
need to
you.
talk about how you become a fan. PHAN.
Oh.
Like,
Oh yes.
what does that entail to really be a fan?
Mm-hmm.
You just got to appreciate the swag. You know what I mean?
Smart.
Yeah. It's about you know, I what I love about social media, because obviously there's a lot of bad things, you know, and I've shared this with people. I appreciate when people share positive things about their lives, and I believe in like hyping that. And so when someone's like, "Hey, I had a really good day of work," I like that post, right? I just got a promotion. Love that post, right? Here's a photo of my kids at the park this weekend. You know what I mean? That's what I think social media should be used for. So I generally don't take social media very serious. I know my friends that follow me will say that. I try to, have a real good sense of humor. But I also like want to show off cool places I go to, good food I eat as well. You know, just kind of different experiences. And so that's kind of how I feel about it. And that's how you become a fan. You know, you embrace like positivity, and just like when someone hypes you, you hype them back. How you feel about that, Angela? That's how I feel. To be honest.
Definitely. Yeah. No, social media is too much filled with drama.
Yeah.
People just are they fight. Everyone's on their hobby horse. So yeah, definitely use it. Like if like go on the Instagram, like I am always trying to be very positive,
Right.
and just share great things, because why not? The world can be a very dark place and everyone's going through their own stuff. So why would I go on and share something that I consider a little bit negative, but like compared to someone who's, lost their job or really struggling, my bad day is just nothing. Like that's Tuesday for them. So why not go on and share some light and happiness and make the world a little bit better place with a smile and, maybe a fun story or a fun picture of a dog. Yeah, definitely, for sure.
I also believe in like support, especially for us as historians, is supporting other historians. So, John, I know you've experienced this in Gettysburg, how people are so like protective of their turf and all this stuff, and like that's basically the opposite of what we need in Civil War history right now, right? And so, it's like, hey, I just wrote an article about this and so related to Civil War, or I'm going to do a quick video there, or I've started a new blog, I've started a new page about the Civil War. It's just like, that's great, like let's support that. And I think there's a lot of people that work in the field that are so protective, and they're like, they don't welcome new people at all. And like, that's, I struggle with that, to be honest with you, because I'm like, don't we want more people interested in this, right? Because I know both of us here, all three of us here quite a bit. It's like, man, we want to get younger people involved. We want to get more, people from diverse backgrounds involved. Well, then be inclusive then, right?
Right.
Yeah, and support each other. Like I like that you said hype, right? Hype each other up. Like of course, like a healthy competition, right? But like, no, like support each other. If you're going to criticize someone, make sure it's constructive criticism.
Absolutely,
like did there, but let's improve it, because we're all in this together. When we collaborate, when we network, when we talk, we produce better history. We produce better things for the next generation of historians coming up. If we're very insular and competitive and always watching each other's back, like that's not going to serve anybody, especially us. Like to hold all that negativity in our bodies, like it's not good, right? So, and like I think something else is like thinking that you have to be on the same timeline as everyone else. On social media, when you post your life, they're like, oh, my book is done, I'm having children, or I got this tenure track job. It's very easy for people to be like, well, I'm not doing enough.
Right, sure, that's a great point.
Be very careful about, no, like this is my timeline. That doesn't reflect anything about your timeline, right? And be very careful about allowing that judgment or that negativity.
Yeah, earlier today I had a Zoom chat, kind of like presentation with my alma mater. So they were like undergrads, right? And they were mostly seniors. Most of them are going into education, right? So like I think elementary and secondary ed. But it was really cool to kind of connect with not only kind of the roots, of kind of what inspired a lot of this, but I like being around other educators. And I think that's what we do in history, right? So that was I don't know, that for me it was impactful. It was only for an hour or so, but this is like the next generation of educators. And I think what we've seen from the pandemic, how instrumental are educators to the country, to the world, right? My goodness, with all these stay-at-home orders and all the students staying at home and the teachers really adapting on the fly to, to educate, to connect with these students, to be role models in their lives. I think that's kind of what my takeaway from this has been, is just how important educators are to our society, to be honest. I don't know.
And that they're not the thing for people who do, I think students for secondary ed. I've been doing a lot of those things too. That's why I'm like, we all complain a little bit about Zoom calls, right? Oh, I've been on 5 Zoom calls today, but like Zoom is such an amazing tool. Like the people we get to talk to, right? And be able to reach out to people, even though we can't travel, it's fantastic. But to let them know that they're not alone, that they're not just education, right? It's like, no, you're doing history education. Like, feel free to reach out to historians. We have tools for you. We have sources for you. I remember a few years ago, Pete Carmichael at Gettysburg, they did a Civil War Institute conference, and they invited a ton of people from the Park Service, other public history jobs, and then educators to come in. And they were in the same audience as established Civil War historians like Dave Blight, right? Because like this is not in a vacuum. Like we all are building on each other. We all have to work together. And for some people to be like, oh, well, they're just a high school teacher. No, like they're a high school teacher. That's a foundation of the people that we are trying to work with and trying to serve.
Absolutely.
Right. And
never heard of Peter Carmichael, by the way. Is he the guy that wears the scarves? Is he that guy?
He's very stylish.
He's new.
Is he on?
He's new to the field.
Where's Pete?
I don't know. I don't know where Pete is right now.
We should do a huge shout out to Pete, because Pete is one of those guys who he never makes you feel unwanted or uncared for or unwelcomed. Like, it doesn't matter if you're an undergrad, a grad student, or a scholar. Pete he treats you the same. Yeah. He's always very welcoming. He's just an all around great guy, and more people should be like Pete Carmichael.
Absolutely. He's amazing with students, and he's just a really good person as well. He really cares for people. And then I'm with you, Angela. I know you feel the same way, John, because I know you guys have a good relationship. He's been instrumental in my professional career and development, and when he didn't have to, you know what I mean? And I kind of ran into him when I was out in Gettysburg in 2012 at Gettysburg College, and it was at the end of the semester, by the way, too. And it's developed into something that's very special, So, always a good shout out to, historians like that really take the time to develop people and just be a good friend and mentor, So.
Yeah, it really is important. I think that's one way that we can give back. I don't know if you guys ever had a moment of, am I doing the right thing? Am I choosing the right career or profession? And like, you have to do something better, right? Like some of my family members were very much like, well, what are you going to do with that? Like, don't you want to make a difference? And I remember actually really sitting with that and being upset. Like, am I going to make a difference with what I'm doing? And I was like, no, like as historians, we make a difference every day.
Right.
Whether it's, leading educational programs, mentoring students, recording people's voices that perhaps were lost to history or overshadowed in history. Like, we do something every day, and it means a lot to me. And I'm glad to see that other people also do that as well. And they really do want to make a difference. They're not just phoning it in.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. I've been so encouraged and inspired by watching what John's been doing the past couple of years, huh? I remember those posts, John, when you're just like, hey, I'm giving up this career doing history, right? Something that you were comfortable and knowledgeable doing. And you're like, dude, I'm just going to go out on the limb and just try something different. Yeah. Man, that's been so cool to see. So, and I mean, it's going to lead you to your PhD, but I think it's also been, Angela, I think you would agree with me. It's really connected. One of my favorite things about watching your videos or your posts is seeing people not really connected to like Civil War stuff talking about history, right? Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, I had no idea, and I learned something new today, and like, I find this really cool, right? That's what we're trying to do, right? So I know a lot of people definitely share the same sentiment, but keep on
Yeah,
doing what you're doing.
I just told John last night, right? We should talk about John, by the way, being an influencer.
Yeah.
But because he's honest, he's candid, and you make a welcome space. Like there's no dumb questions, right? If someone comes on here and they're asking about like what I did, like Civil War POWs, asking a very basic exchange, like a question about exchange. I was like, that's not a dumb question. Like,
not at all.
Share it, right? Or you know, unless you're asking like, I don't know, does tofu make good meatloaf? And we've already answered this question. But
Sure
like,
does it.
there's not many dumb
I heard it makes bad barbecue, but yeah.
it makes best barbecue. But like John creates a space where everyone is welcome, whether you are just a history buff or you just get kind of wandered to it, like somehow on social media. Like you never make people feel unwanted. So John, you are just fantastic, and I'm glad you're doing this because first of all, it's fun. You allow dogs.
Well, yeah, I allow alcohol. It's like, go ahead. I don't care.
It's a good time.
I'm not drinking it, you know.
We're the best bar in town.
Yeah, thank you for that though, because that has been my goal, was to always make a welcome space for people to converse or ask questions, allow their curiosity to peak. And I think that far too often, like Steve brought up earlier, you were talking about the Gettysburg area and stuff like that. And this is throughout any historical genre. You know, this isn't just Civil War. This is all kinds of genres where some people think there's not enough pie for everybody, and they try to take all the pie, and they try to be like, this is my space. It's like drug dealers. It's like drug dealers, and they're like, this is my corner.
Yep.
You're off my corner.
Right.
And it's not like that at all with the history field, and people need to get used to that idea that they can't be so egotistical, and there's too much of that in some sectors. I'm not saying it's all over the place, because I think with what we're trying to do, whether we're shooting videos on Instagram or shooting videos on Facebook, or we're putting YouTube videos up or whatever else, that accessibility is chipping away at that wall that some have put up in the past. And it takes good people who are well entrenched in the system, like a Pete Carmichael, to say, wait a minute, this is going to make a difference if we just allow them to have a voice. Because Pete invited me to the CWI Summer Conference last year out of the blue. And he's like, I know you talked about live streaming. Do you want to live stream from the conference? And that was like my 5-year plan, was where I was like, okay, in 5 years, I want to live stream interview people at a conference.
Yeah, right.
He comes along and he asked me 6 months in, and I'm like, well, okay, the 5-year plan is now the 6-month plan. And now I got to figure this out and move forward. So sometimes, you know, it's all about networking, obviously, with people who are like-minded, but you can't imagine, probably in a year, I may get an email a month from a student or someone who just got out of grad school or whatever else, and they're like, I don't fit in. I don't fit into the 9 to 5. I don't fit in the archive. But I'm trained that way. And I hear that. I understand that, because that's where I was. So hopefully, you know, going forward, this allows others to see that you can do something else. If that's not for you, you know, God bless the people who can do it, you know, because someone needs to be in charge of the archive so we can get in there and find out what we need to find out. Someone has to do it, and someone loves doing it. But not all historians are built the same way, just like, you know, any other thing you do.
And that's completely okay. Like that's, I just gave a talk last week at actually my master's alumni. They invited 4 individuals. I was one of them, who were in like all academic careers, to kind of sit down with English and history grad students to talk about what we did, what we do, and what other opportunities there are. And I feel like some people were like, oh, I only have to do academic jobs, right? And we're like, well, first of all, no, there's a ton of jobs outside of academia. But then even those, people think museums, archives, Park Service, they're very even limited in how they approach that. I was like, no, like there are so many opportunities. And if you don't feel comfortable doing X, Y, and Z, that doesn't make you a failure, right? There is something out there for you that you'll find, and it will be a fit. Like it might not be something you ever even thought about. Like John just said, like 5-year plan, like it might not even be on your radar, but it might, like what I do now with the Army, like wasn't even on my radar when I was going through my grad school. And now I love my job. Like, I kind of keep open mind and don't think that you are not good enough just because you're not in that cookie cutter space.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I've seen some college age people in the comment section, and it reminds me of this idea that you have to have everything figured out by your time you're 22. What are you going to do? What are you going to go for? I was 37 before I started doing this full time on my own. So when you talk to a 22-year-old and you could literally but you could literally have a kid right now, and they could be driving, and you would be the age I am right now, before I figured things out. And so time is on your side. And I think we don't instill patience in people enough. We think you have to have it figured out like that. And we have, and you have to fit in that mold of, well, you do this and then you go to this and then you retire or whatever else. And I think that's a not just our field thing. That's everywhere.
Well, like we were talking about social media, Steve, like what you see on social media. Like I like now that there is more of that energy of like, you don't have to have it all figured out. Like normalize finding yourself in your 30s, normalize finding a new career in your 50s. Like there's this huge push that you don't have to follow everyone else's timeline. And it's perfectly okay to go back to school in your 50s or to get married or have kids. Like there's so many other things that you can do than just do school, college, job, retire, death. Like there's so many other options.
No, I think a lot about Anthony Bourdain, and I know John and I talk about him. He's my idol, right? And he had a very good upbringing in outside of New York City and New Jersey, and goes to a traditional college, right? And I think within a semester or two, he's just done, right? And he just just wasn't for him. And where does he end up going? He goes to the Culinary Institute of America, and which leads to this kind of like what I appreciate about him. He was so grounded in his career, He's just like, man, I had this degree so I could get jobs anywhere. And I basically went for the easy cash, and then he was only in his late 40s when he started writing and publishing that he just had this different life, but he was so grounded by his experience, with the food industry. And I get that, and so he talks about being a late bloomer, and I definitely feel I'm the same way. I didn't graduate as an undergraduate until I was 26. Didn't start graduate school until I was almost 30, right? But I worked in the food industry for like 10 years, and John, we've talked about this. I mean, talk about, that's some humbling work. But when you get done working, and I remember Bourdain, he wrote about this and he talked about this on his show. You remember those days you walked out after like a 6-hour night dinner shift, and he was like, turn after turn, and you just had all these orders, and you felt like gratified and fulfilled, and so like you put in a good day's work, right? And so I learned a lot from that industry of working, of not everything ever being right, to be honest with you, and you just had to adapt at that moment and kind of figure things out, right? So that's really geared me towards kind of my second kind of move, I guess I would say, with history. So John, I tell my students, my people that try to get into the Park Service and younger historians and stuff, I don't have bad days, because like, I'm getting paid to do Civil War history. Life is really good, so I'm very grateful. So I guess from that point, it's kept me very grounded, right? And so that's why I'm so open to this idea of all different approaches to history, all different forms of history, people coming from all different backgrounds to do history, right? And so I don't know what you've seen, Angela. I mean, how the field of Civil War history is so expansive now, right? That it's, man, you're learning something new every day now, right?
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I like how you said, I always say that, Steve, and I'm glad that you think so too. Like I say, I don't have bad days. I have days where I want to rip my hair out. There are days where I'm like crouched over the computer, like, oh my God, like one more, like that happens. Like there's stressful days, but I don't have bad days. Right. Teaching, I really love teaching. I loved being in front of students and talking to students and watching them grow, but I hated grading and I hated prep, and I would have bad days. I don't really have bad days anymore.
Right.
If I would have been like, no, Angela, you have to teach, you have to do this, like you only have to be in academia, I would be so miserable right now. And I'm thankful for people who reached out to me and were like, oh, have you heard about this job opportunity? There's so many other opportunities, and I'm so thankful for them. And then I try to pay it forward.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Civil War history, like there is so much. Like I love it. I actually probably have way too many books, as you can see, like behind me. Like I have over 100 books just downstairs in my living room because there's always new stuff coming out. And I want to read everything. I was like, it's not related to what I do, but I want to read it. It looks cool.
Yeah.
Civil War history.
Hey, I got a question. It's a great one in the comments here from Dan. I wanted to go on to a career in academia, but I always see people talking about how bleak the academic job market is. How does one keep their head down and keep going on that track with so much uncertainty?
Well, that's a great question.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it is. It is bleak, Dan. We're not going to lie to you, right? It's not the best job market, but is it? The question I have for you is it your passion? Do you love doing history? Yeah. If the answer is yes, then you can do it. That's how you get through. That's how you just keep your head down and keep working, is that you love it. This is your passion. If you're a little like waffling and you're just like, oh, maybe I kind of want to do it, maybe I kind of don't, it's going to be very hard to get up on those days and apply for jobs and reach out to people, because you're not really good. Your heart's not going to be in it. And that's okay too. If your heart's not in it, that's completely okay. Doesn't mean you're a failure. There's other positions. But if your heart's there, that's how you keep going. That's how you maintain that discipline and that motivation to keep going.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say. I would love to hear what you guys have to say.
Wow. It's interesting, Dan, that you mentioned that, because within the past month, I've been looking into PhD programs. And Angela, you know this because you have a PhD. Going through graduate school that was a trying experience, right? I mean, it's probably the most difficult thing I've ever done. As I expected in a way, right? Like I wanted to kind of go through some pain to like really develop as a historian, and I had this wonderful mentor in graduate school that did not take it easy and really, he beat the hell out of me, man, mentally, but it made me a better historian. It's interesting now because I'm doing research and stuff and I'm writing. I'm like, man, and I return to the lessons my mentor taught me, right? But I miss like the challenge of academia, right? Even though I've got this career job now and things are going really well, I'm like, man, I'm thinking about like kind of like diving back into this. And so I kind of asked around with it, so that I'm still trying to figure that out. We'll see. But John, you're starting a PhD program,
right?
So
yeah. Dan, I think that's an awesome question. Like we said, you have to know, you have to do it for yourself. Number one, the thing that I see the most often in the history field is people think you can't be taken seriously unless you have a PhD, and that's bullshit. I hate that, where they're like, oh, we can't. I remember one time I inquired about helping out, just assisting with a battlefield tour for a staff ride. And they literally told me, I'm not a retired colonel and I don't have a PhD. And I'm like, so you're telling me someone who went through Fallujah understands Yorktown? That doesn't make any sense to me. So, but it was the government, so that's a different story. Bill Nye doesn't have a PhD. Bill Nye has a master's degree, and look at the stuff he does.
Right.
And look at the impact he has on the science field. Look at all the people who have an impact on the history field who don't have a degree. As far as that, some have a bachelor's, some have a master's, some have a high school diploma. You have to do it when it's right for you, like we've been saying. It's all a game of self-awareness. I know that like you, Steve, I need the challenge. I need to course correct in my life, and I need to go a different direction, and I need to do this because I've dreamed for years of being in front of an academic classroom. That's what I love to do. I love to be a teacher, but also a mentor. And that's just who I am now. And I think that I know that that's the course I need to take because I won't sleep at night if I don't try.
Yep. That's your dream. You said you dreamed about it. That's your dream. That's why you want to do it.
Yeah. And that's totally different for everybody else. And I never want anyone in the comment section or who watches this later on to be like, this is what I'm supposed to do because someone else thinks I should do it. You have to do it for yourself. And it doesn't matter what other professors say. I know that someone in the comments here, Nathan Provost, told me it's a dumpster fire and the dumpster also being on fire. Maybe Dr. Woodworth doesn't want you to do it because they're going to be jealous. I mean, come on. Let's be real here. I can't stand the negativity in that way where people are like, don't go after your doctor because you won't get anywhere. How do they know? And and they don't have to live with that. You know, if you don't do it, regret is a hell of a thing to live with. And if you don't do it and you don't pursue it and you want to pursue it, that's not going to be on Dr. Woodworth. That's going to be on you. And so I think that it's kind of like a come to Jesus moment where you're kind of like, I need to do this to be able to sleep at night.
Yeah, exactly.
I need the challenge for me, I need the challenge to be like a therapy for me and keep moving forward because I'm trying to be better as a person and better as a historian. My route entails me going after PhD. Someone else could be like, I just want to start a social media brand and I'll be happy as a clam for 50 years. Great, do it. It's different for everybody. I think that you have to do what you feel is right for yourself, no matter what the cost.
Yep.
And that's
like, yeah, getting a PhD that, you know, John, you're starting one, Steve, you're thinking about it. It's incredibly isolating. It really is. It's not, sometimes there's very dark times, right? There's a lot of hard work. So you have to really, again, think like, are you going to regret not doing it? Are you going to be sad if you don't do it? How is that going to affect you and your happiness and your energy? Because there are days that you're not going to want to look at another source, right? Yeah. But you have to because that's your dream. You're achieving your goal, and you have to kind of like build that discipline. Sometimes it's not about motivation. Sometimes it's not about energy. It's about the discipline to do it, and having a plan to then meet your goal. Because but for me, like I knew I always wanted to do history. I had my little moments where like, oh, maybe I'll be a lawyer. That didn't happen. Maybe I'll be a geologist. I love geology. I think it's super cool, but it wasn't for me for a job. History, it's like no matter how tired I am, no matter how exhausted, how much pain I'm in, what have you, I still love history.
Yeah.
Right? I still want to pick up a history book. I want to watch a history documentary. It doesn't matter where I am in my life. History is my go-to. It's my passion. And that's how I knew I could keep pushing through and apply to all the jobs and, you know, work at Target part-time while teaching, like, because history is who I am. It's what I do.
Yep.
But again, like if it's not, that's totally okay.
Right.
I think, Angela, and you guys can make some really, really, really great points. I'm sure we've all heard this. Dan, I'm sure you've heard this as well. Why are you doing history? You're not going to make any money. It's just like, bro, I ain't doing it for the money, clearly, right? It's a calling, right? It's a calling. Right. I mean, General Reynolds is hanging out behind me. It's a calling, right? And, you know, it's something I think a lot of us it's ingrained in us, obviously, and it's something that we develop over time. And you know what I really appreciate about this field is mentors, what it means to have mentors and the mentors that really care for you and know that this is what you want to do and go out of their way to assist you along the way. We talked about Dr. Carmichael with that, right? One of the things I love about my job is working with young people, and I love working with people that are interested in history or public service and are inspired, right? I'm so inspired by them. I'm sure more than they're inspired by me. I like being around these people because Angela, John, I know we were all in the same boat, right? Never being that age, you're just like trying to figure out what you wanted to do, and you're like, I've been drawn to history, but I'm not sure if it's going to take me anywhere, right? And being around young people that are inspired, but even everyone that's inspired by history, it's that I find that's the most fulfilling thing about history, right? About this career is you meet people from every different background, right? And then you can come together and have conversations, right? And then you might not agree on everything, and that's probably a good thing, you know, but you can just, hey, we find commonalities in this space. So let's use this space to engage with one another, right? That's kind of what my takeaway from it is. So, yeah.
No, definitely. I was actually, I just, he's watching this and he just texted me and he said he's still paying for grad school financially and health wise. And me too. I developed fibromyalgia in the grad school, probably not just grad school. There's many other reasons for that, but we never regret for a moment being a historian. Just one, we never regret it. And Steve, like you're saying, you can disagree with people. Like there are, like, I am on the dark side of history for the Civil War history, like post revisionist, right? And there are some of my friends and colleagues who are very like guns and bugles and grand charges, and we can fight on a conference panel together. And then it's like, hey, do you want to go grab a drink and hang out? Like you can disagree scholarly, intellectually, and still respect each other. And that's the best thing about, I think, the history field, because you can do that. You're supposed to disagree each other. Like that's what makes good history. Right. And you find someone that is going to not like you and disrespect you because you differ intellectually or on the historical topic, then you don't really want to talk to them anyway. Right. And you probably can cut that cord because that's not what history is about.
Right. And the other thing is too that I'm the guy that just didn't fit in. You know, I was the guy that was like a little bit eccentric, a little bit different for many people in the field, especially in the area. I was the guy who got the 5, no answers from the National Park Service, you know, for internships or whatever else. And I could have sat and sulked and just been like, oh, ho-hum, it's just not going to happen or whatever else. And that's what I hate to see more than anything else is when people just, give up, don't try to do something different, you know, or try to come in through the side door instead of the front door or do something else. Because when you just give up, then there's no chance. You just can't do that. You can't do that. You know, if this is what you want to do and what you want to be known for, and then you're just like throwing your hands up in the air because someone said no, or someone, you know, puts you down. I mean, I could show you the emails of people saying I'm not a real historian. I'm a Facebook historian to some people, and I'm like, that doesn't pay the $92,000 in grad school debt I have. You know, that doesn't pay for the master's degree I have, or someone else can say the same thing about bachelor's degree. I
seriously, John, I hate when people do that, when they say you're not a historian. We have members of our team that only have bachelors. We have one member of our team who's just got to do his master's program. So woo, like fantastic work. He does just as good work and the same work that we do. And we have PhDs. Yep. It's like, and he sometimes says, oh, I just have a bachelor's. I'm like, no, like you're a historian.
Right. Stop saying just.
Lesser.
Yeah. Cut that word just out of the equation. I just have a bachelor's degree. No, you have a bachelor's degree.
Yeah. There are people who there's some people who turn to history after they retire. Like they serve as an accountant their whole lives because they thought that's what they had to do. Duke is getting excited. And it's when they retire that they finally return to their true love of history.
We call that being smart.
History. Could you just good as work? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm going to say is, I think one of my biggest takeaways from doing is like this community. Like tonight's a perfect example, right? I had friends message me and like, hey, I'm gonna tune in tonight, right? People that I would never have met if I didn't pursue this career, right? And that's what I love about this. I love seeing John. I mean, we did an interview in Gettysburg together. We've done Zoom stuff. We've met, and I've met people all over the country when it comes to Civil War related history, you know. And I hate giving that damn guy credit. It comes down to Carmichael again, to be honest with you. I did my semester at Gettysburg in 2012. And I remember when I went back to Colorado, we were talking to each other on the phone. We had these really candid conversations. And he's like, you know, what's your end goal? I'm like, I'm not sure, you know, but I think I want to do something with Civil War history. And he's just like, well, Steve, and this was his words. He's like, you're going to have to leave beloved Colorado because he knows how much I love Colorado, you know. I'm like, wow, that's just something else, you know. And because Colorado is my roots, that's what I knew, you know. And growing up with, you know, my parents were refugees from Vietnam, so I grew up in a very unique, like, kind of Vietnamese community. And then as I got older, you know, I kind of acclimated to American culture and stuff. So that's kind of what I knew. And I, to people, you know, to a lot of people that are listening, you know, I've always like loved the Civil War since a very young age, but I pretty much kept it to myself. You know, I think some of my friends at school knew, but you know, I read books and watched, you know, documentaries and stuff like that, but we didn't go to battlefields and stuff like that. And so it was like a kind of internal passion I had, and going out east and, you know, my first, you know, being at Gettysburg College, and then first internship was at Gettysburg Military Park, right? I remember meeting Scott Hartwig for the first time, you know, after seeing him on TV for years and reading his articles. And I remember I was working with Greg Goodell at Special Collections, and it was lunchtime, and I'm downstairs having lunch in this like lunch break room by myself, and then in walks Scott Hartwig, and he sits at the same table as me, and I'm like, oh!
Did you fangirl?
I remember it. I went and I wrote a Facebook post about it, right? I'm just like, oh my gosh, I just had lunch with Scott Hartwig, right? And then you come to meet, he's like the nicest guy ever, right? Oh, yeah. And I think everyone, and I thought he had like a master's or PhD. And I remember I did an interview for him for my public history class, and he's like, no, man, I just went to the University of Wyoming and got my bachelor's degree. And he's one of the most like respected Civil War historians in the field, right?
Yeah, let me do a shout out really quick to Chris Barr, who I think is watching National Park Service Reconstruction. Yeah. I think, Chris, correct me, is your bachelor's in education, right? It's not in history.
Fishing, because that's all he seems to do.
Fishing, and he's like a badass historian. We're Civil War era, like Reconstruction history. Mm-hmm. And just like, if people be like, no, you can't do it because you only have a bachelor's, it's not even in history. If Chris would have been like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I'm gonna just do X, Y, and Z, like we wouldn't have Chris Barr's excellent input into Civil War history and POWs.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, Chris, are you fishing tonight?
Or barbecuing? Talk about barbecue.
It's after dark. He's catfishing, probably. Right now.
All right. Well, I'm going to actually visit that area in November and see Rich Condon. So I know I'll see Chris Barr
Rich
at that
is watching
point
too, by the way.
Is he?
Yeah, he's popping up in the comments from time to time here.
Can't wait to see him.
I do.
But no, I don't know.
Go ahead, Steve.
I just appreciate the fact of, because I meet so many people that are in the field that are like Rich talks about, he shares photos with his father of going to Gettysburg at a very young age, and then and a lot of people out east and in the South have like ancestors that served in the Civil War and stuff, so I don't have a connection. So I really appreciated like going out east and South and just meeting people and understanding how ingrained Civil War history was with so many people in communities and families and stuff, and they've all been incredibly welcoming and stuff, so that's kind of my big takeaway. And I share that with the students from the University of Northern Colorado today, that we're here for you guys, and use us as references, and use us as resources for your students, and moving forward as well. So yeah, I don't know, that's how I feel.
Yeah, reach out to us.
I got a great question from one of my followers who's always on, Sharita. What's the baseline of defining when you're a historian? Now, this is a big thing for a lot of people because people are like, am I a historian or not? Am I going to be seen as a historian or not? And that's a big thing. And I think
Angela, I'm going to let you take that question first, okay? Because I know this is contentious. And by the way, and I'll say really quickly, that's a great question because I know there's there's tension between traditional history and public history, right? There's that rift as well. I saw that in graduate school, so I'll share that after it says a couple words.
That's a great question. It really is well done. It's very thought provoking. I think a historian is. I hesitate to use the term expert. I like the way you people who say a student of history, because we're always learning and we're always growing. It's like doing yoga. You practice yoga, right? You're not a yoga expert. You practice it. So you practice history. I think it's someone who studies the past, analyzes the past, and critically thinks about the past and tries to draw conclusions and share the past with other people. So I think there's definitely a research element. I think there's a sharing element, whether that's publicly, like on a battlefield, or digitally using Facebook or writing a book. You know, you're really sharing that research with other people. And I think critically thinking about it. That's what maybe is a little bit of the difference is between people who are just like history buffs and people who are historians. Is history buffs just absorb it, consume it. Like my dad's a history buff. Like he loves going to Gettysburg, taking a picture of a monument, and then going watching a documentary. And he'll maybe ask a few questions, but he's not thinking really critically. He's just consuming it. I think a historian is someone who studies it and critically thinks about a period of time, an event in history.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to have a degree to do that.
You don't.
Right.
Wow, that
You
was
don't need to be in an academic job to do that.
Yeah.
No, that was really good.
I'm going to defer that question to you from now on.
I was like, no, because what do you guys think? What do you think makes a historian? And I love to hear, because you guys are in different positions than I am.
Yeah. Give me a second. I've struggled with this, to be honest with you. And when I went to graduate school, I worked for a historian that was not very fond of public history. And so it kind of turned me against public history as well, you know? So I believed in academia, the idea of basically historians talking amongst historians, right? Which, Angela, you talked about this before. It was insular, you know, and it wasn't very inclusive, right? It was just very knowledgeable people talking about stuff that probably won't connect to a lot of people, right? And I was in the public history program, and I felt that I wasn't doing public history, and that's what I wanted, right? Mm-hmm. So I was just like, I'm a historian, and I work in the field of public history, you know. But since I've been working with my career in public history, I'm with Angela, you know. I've really kind of moved on beyond that idea of, to be honest, it was kind of snobby, you know. It was a bit elitist the way I was thinking before, but I love engaging with people now, and Angela's spot on, you know. It's really critically thinking about this. And I don't mean to go after people, but we have people that tell us, you know, how dare you, like, we're at a battlefield. You should just be talking about the battles and tactics. I'm sorry, you're not a historian, you know, like it's well beyond this. Like there's a reason why these armies are out like duking out with each other, right? Like they got orders to be out there from, you know, civilian authorities, you know, and there's a deeper context to this. And so I think what I've really appreciated about working with the public is you've got this platform where you can really engage and talk about these different perspectives and stuff. But they also, the public provides that as well, right? So I think the big takeaway, as Angela, you were saying, is critically engaging in the history, the resources, the context of it, right? And that's why, you know, as I tell students and I tell people on my programs all the time, we're not changing the narrative. We're simply expanding the narrative as we come across more perspectives and more primary source material and stuff, right? I'll give you an example. I've been doing a lot of research on the Maryland campaign and its connection to like DC and the defenses of Washington. And I mean, there was such a cause and effect of what happened with the Maryland campaign and Lee's invasion and all this. And I'm particularly interested in like African Americans in Washington, D.C. that come to D.C. during the course of the war, estimated 40 to 50,000 formerly enslaved people. And so how can you be like, you can't talk about slavery in the Civil War? It's like, what are you talking about? If you read the official records, the Army is asking for contrabands to be sent out to Harper's Ferry from D.C. to build fortifications, right?
Yep.
And these people some of them came from the Fort Monroe area, right? I mean, think about that connection down the line, right? So that, I mean, I was just like, that for me today, that was like, we had those light bulb moments during the day, and I'm just like kind of jumping around in my office. That's kind of the things we're looking at, right? That's being a historian, right? You're making this full connection because, the armies fought each other on September 17th, and they, it was a brutal, bloody battle, as we all know, but there's a cause and effect to that, and there's an aftermath to that as well, right? So that battle influenced the lives of over 2,000 former slaves that got sent out to build fortifications at Harper's Ferry, right? I don't know. For me, that's that's something incredibly powerful.
I think it's important because there's probably people listening who like the tactics and the weaponry. We're not saying that's not important. Like look at Earl Hess, right? He has a book about Civil War infantry tactics or the rifled musket. But he looks at like, well, what did this do? Or what didn't it do, right? The whole argument was the Civil War is deadlier than other wars because of the rifle musket. Earl Hess, through intense study, found out that's probably not the case because they were still using it like a traditional, like, smoothbore musket, right? So he's still critically thinking and asking questions about weapons and tactics. One of my other coworkers does more traditional history and thinking like, all right, well, this unit moved X, Y, and Z. Well, what does that mean for that soldier, right? That you're now leaving your defensive positions that you built and you're going to attack the enemy. How does that affect that soldier's mindset? How does it affect unit morale? It like nothing occurs in a vacuum, and a historian recognizes that. So you can study, like, again, we don't have to study slavery or memory studies. You can study what happens when a musket ball hits a tree, but what are you drawing from that? How are you critically thinking about that event instead of being like, yeah, that happened because, my dad can tell you that happened, but then asking some deeper questions, I think what makes you a historian.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And coming to grips with the fact that history isn't clean. And there are many times when you're a historian that you read something and it makes you cringe or it makes you rethink what you've been taught about things, possibly allows you to go, have an introspective view of things and how you've perceived it for years.
Have you seen that? Have you seen that meme going around? It's saying like, you study history, it's going to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Right? Like,
it should make you uncomfortable, right?
You're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to learn things that are going to make you feel uncomfortable. It's going to be difficult to talk about. It's going to be sad. It's going to be depressing. It's going to be challenging. But that's what makes it rewarding.
Right. Right. It's how you grow as not only a historian, but a person, a citizen of whatever country you live in. It's how you grow and develop. And I think that's what history allows a lot of us to do, is it allows us to become a better person. If you so desire to take that path of looking inward and saying, it's not clean. It's not, hasn't always been cities on the hill, and you need to really take that into effect, because you have to look at ourselves. Like, I know my flaws. I know what I've done in the past. We collectively have done things wrong in the past. We've made our flaws. We've done a lot of bad things to each other, no matter what country we live in. And if you gloss that over, you never want to look at it. That means you never want to look at your own flaws and be a better person. Yep. So, I take it from a personal level, a micro level, and take it to a macro and be like, you have to understand yourself to become a better person. So why can't it be the macro as well?
Yeah, you grow by exiting your comfort zone. If you always stay in your comfort zone, in your little happy shell, you're never going to grow. Right. It's like, that seems like maybe a little woo-woo, but it's also like from nature, right? Look at like hermit crabs or like snakes. Like to expand, to grow, you have to leave your comfort zone. You have to leave that kind of behind. I actually want to bring this up with some people who are listening as well. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and let me know what you guys think, is the difference between a career and a profession. Because I feel I struggle with it a lot. So I have my career, right? I work for Army University Press. I make film, keep a doctorate through history. That's my career. That's my 9 to 5. And then my profession is also being a historian, but that's where I do my Civil War history, my article writing, my research. And there are two different things. And I think sometimes think that they have to be a historian, that has to be their career. And it doesn't have to. Your career could be an accountant. Your career could be, I don't know. Give me an example. Working at Target, working at a bank, like that could be your career. That's what you do. That's your job. And then your profession, you could be a historian, and it might be after hours. It might be on the weekend. That doesn't make you any less of a historian than someone who gets paid to teach a history class.
Right.
Absolutely. No, I think that's. I remember my mentor in graduate school. That he's like, when I was growing up, historians sold insurance and did history like kind of on the side kind of a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably becoming a bit more practical now, just the way things are going, right? And I think that's what really kind of was reflected to me in regards to like public history. You can do a little bit of everything in regards to like public, like historic preservation and all that stuff. You're not always doing history and stuff. You know what I mean? It comes to, I remember my mentor was saying, is you might as well have a business degree. Like that's how serious he was about like the rift between public history and traditional history and stuff. But hey, if they're saving a historic building, like that's a good thing, right?
Right.
We should encourage that. So I don't know, Angela. I mean, I'm kind of one of those guys that I'm a person that I just like. My passion is who I am, and that's I'm a very simple person, right? Like I love history. It's who I am, and so it's both my profession and my career. So
we're very fortunate for that. I think is because some people aren't as lucky. I feel kind of weird when people ask you like, "What do you do?" and "Who are you?" and I'm like, "I'm a historian," and they're like, "No, that's what you do. Who are you?" and I'm like, is that a trick question? I'm a historian.
Totally,
like that, some people, maybe even our parents' generation, like they were like, I'm a clerk at a gas company, but really I'm a mom. You know what I mean? Like they have those two identities. Like, no, I only have a singular identity. Like I'm a historian.
I'll say, and I'm glad you brought this up. I'll say this really quick. I got a close friend. I mean, I got a friend that I went to high school with. He's a banker and he's incredibly successful, right? But whenever we've had conversations, he's just like, and it's kind of we both say different things. I'm just like, man, like I'm so proud of you, man. You are doing well, man. You're just balling, He's like, yeah, things are really going well. What he says to me? He's like, man, I wish I pursued what I love like you did. I'm just like, man, I'll take your salary first. You know what I mean? But it's kind of I don't know. It's just kind of a different mindset, right? So kind of like what we got back to before, like why are you doing history? You're not going to make money. It's like that's not really the point at all, man. And
no, we know that. We know that we're not going to make money.
We don't make any money.
Right.
And why I live in a row house in Washington D.C. with a bunch of roommates. Okay, it's good, right? I'm happy. I'm very content. But it's just I think, and that's why we get very close to people that a lot of your followers I know are the same way, John. They're passionate about this. They care about it. I love going to Gettysburg and just seeing all the people that would go to Gary Owen and watch you do your live videos, right? Those are amazing. And there are people that are just having a good time and they're just interested in history, right? And I love sharing that with other people, right? That's great. And then I don't know what I have found from my experiences. You meet people and they tend to support you and they come back, and they always got your back. And it should be a beneficial relationship. I really find that by doing this career.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't be doing anything else. I know that. This is what I want to do. Is just be known as a historian, and that's it. So I enjoy that, and I enjoy being labeled that. Go ahead and label that the rest of my life. That's fine.
I prefer influencer or guru for you, John. Can you tell the people the story? Can you? I'm sorry. I told you I was going to bring it up.
Yeah, there was one of my Instagram followers. I got the notification of one of my Instagram followers had tagged me in a story on Instagram, and I went over and she was talking about history and so on, and reading and doing what you love and things. And she tagged me in it, and I was like, "Oh, it's a great post. I'll reshare it." So I reshared her story. And of course, when I reshare her story, she gets notified that I reshared her story. And then she reshared it again with, oh my God, this was shared out by my favorite influencer. And there was an arrow pointing to my name, my screen name. And I'm like, I'm an influencer now? What is going on here? So it was kind of funny because you don't think about that kind of stuff sometimes when you're what you're going to be labeled as other than historian or something.
You're making a difference, John.
Angela, he has his own shirts. Okay,
I do have my own shirts.
I saw you wearing one, Steve. Don't act like you don't.
I'm saying, I was going to say, I talk about hyping my friends, right?
Hell yeah.
I'm all about that.
Yeah. And I'm
off,
waiting for Steve to make one, and then I'll wear that. And we can just go back and forth with that.
Because like I feel like, so Steve, you have fans and you can be fantastic or what have you. John is the tattoo historian. I feel like I need something. I don't have anything. I need to come up with a saying or a motto, or
you gotta enhance your brand here.
I need to make a brand. I don't have a brand.
Everyone's a brand. It's just
everyone should say, like, in the comments, everyone start giving me your brand ideas so I can.
Yes, that's a great idea.
There is a man in the comments section who's a brand all his own, and he just said that we did a great job, and that's John Heiser.
Thanks, John.
The John Heiser?
The John Heiser is watching this evening. Thank you, John. We
miss you. I hope you're enjoying retirement, buddy.
Yeah, there you go.
John's been a historian at Gettysburg since like 1865, I think. So he's been there a while.
Yeah, he was there with Batchelder.
That's right.
God. He knows Reynolds personally. They hung out.
There. He actually gave a tour to the Beatles.
That's right.
Not the band, the original life form is what I'm
talking
about.
The original life. That's terrible.
I think John Heiser is like the best example of what it means to be a historian, by the way. Like, John has been the historian. He was the historian at Gettysburg, I think, for almost like 38 years or something. And every single person I've met, either they're like interns or seasonals, permanents, whatever, or people that are there doing research, they say John is the nicest person they've ever met. One of them, right? And like, he doesn't have to be like that, right? And I that's so commendable after his illustrious career. So I think that's just a great example of someone, and he's totally engaged in like the stuff that we're doing as well, right? That means a lot, I think, for any of us that are up and coming in the field of history. And then when we got John Heiser liking our posts, I'm feeling pretty good about life. Okay, so
yeah, I think overall, like, the big takeaway from this is historians are pretty cool people. We might be kind of nuts, but we're cool people. Most historians are genuinely really good people, and they want to help you.
Yes.
And if you come across someone who doesn't want to help you or is disrespectful, like, not let that taint your idea of what a historian is. Like, there's one, right? There's some bad apples everywhere, but I think overall historians they want to help you. They want to talk to you. Like, look at Heiser. It's a Thursday night and he's logging on and giving like positive feedback. Like, that's what it means to be a historian.
Right.
Exactly.
And to love John Reynolds and the First Corps Army of the Potomac so much as Steve does. And by the way, Steve, I have formed with a friend. He's forming it. We got a 6 Wisconsin Company D unit starting on War of Rights on the video games. We are raising our own Iron Brigade company, so you can come on there and shoot rebs with us sometime.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about, but I've seen
it. It's super exciting. Okay.
I'm sending videos of this video game, so we're starting.
Yeah, I've seen you post that. I'm not a big gamer, but I would totally play that game. Okay.
We'll slap a black hat on you, and you'll be good to go. So,
indeed.
Hey, I want to thank both of you two for coming on this evening. I know we're running a little later, but that's great because our conversation has been fantastic. PHAN.
Yes.
Like my favorite
so
thing.
easy. It's so easy.
Yes, but no, seriously, this has been awesome because it's allowed us to share our thoughts on the field and education and so much more, and to talk with everyone in the comment section.
Is there, John? Has there been any suggestions about Angela's brand? I'm really intrigued by this.
There has not yet, but we should probably do like a question on the.
No, you need to. So I just deal with thing at work because I am so good. Let's say at editing people's papers, they call me the butcher.
Wow. Sweet.
And I am a Grant fan,
that's
but I
great.
think that's a little too much.
Angela the Butcher?
I think that's a little too much. I maybe like it, a little bit much.
Angela, where are you from?
I'm from Pottsville, Pennsylvania.
Ooh,
so about an hour and a half from Gettysburg, actually.
Okay. Now I'll come up with something.
Yeah, Chris Barr says that your brand is more puppies on Zoom meetings.
More puppies. All right, so before we sign off, like, this is Rocky. So you guys met Duke. This is Rocky. Rocky is a 13-year-old rescue. I got him when he was 11, and he's.
Oh my gosh.
We call him like old vet. Like he stormed the beaches at Normandy and he's still going. Like he's just
awesome,
blind and just kind of here.
Rocky.
But yeah, he can't hear you, but he's here.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Rock. Hey, Chris Barr, thanks for chiming in, man. Miss you, buddy.
Yes, we got
See you in November.
We got Bill Brown in there from North Carolina.
The one and only. Nice.
The one and only Bill Brown. He says it's got to be the butcher.
I agree.
The
butcher of Pottsville.
The butcher of Pottsville.
The butcher of Pottsville. Yes. It's kind of like Bill the Butcher, but not as.
I got a gif of the butcher from Gangs of New York, Daniel Day-Lewis earlier. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
There you go.
So like your logo should be you sharpening knives. Okay.
Yes.
For my tofu.
Oh gosh.
For your barbecue tofu.
Okay, that's a good time to conclude this interview.
Thank you, John.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for watching, commenting, asking questions, because we love to interact with you. Thank you too so much for being on and doing this. And we'll do another one in a couple weeks and see how it goes. So, thanks, guys. Take care, everybody. Bye.